organisé afin d'amener quelque chose ensemble. Je l'explique en ces termes. Un système, c'est comme la constitution des chaînes, la constitution d'une entité, la constitution d'un élément. Alors, le racisme systémique, c'est, parlons en termes des couches, où on évalue les gens selon leur peau, selon leur pays de sortie, selon leur langage, en Afrique, on parle des tribus. Alors, le racisme, en gros, pour moi, c'est ces étapes que l'on essaye de refuter afin de prouver qu'il y a un racisme qui existe dans les communautés actuelles. Donc, comme on dit en français, le racisme systémique, c'est aussi cette intention mise en œuvre afin de pouvoir séparer les populations mondiales. En effet, c'est ça pour moi le racisme systémique.
So what Lavi is saying there, for him, systemic racism is like a perfusive kind of idea that has infiltrated many aspects of society, and seeing the connection, seeing the links between the different aspects of it is what kind of creates this systemic racism that we see, just to say it briefly. So we're going to come back to this slide in a bit here. I think it's important to just talk through a definition of systems. So just like what Lavi is saying, what we mean by that, it's a collection of different components that work together to achieve a common goal. The attributes of it is that there's integration between the system. So, between the different components. So you'll see the school system work with the justice system, which will work with the health system, which will work with different kind of system in order to achieve any kind of goal. There's integration, there's interaction, there's interdependence. So Lavi pointed this out really well. So when one part of the system is attacked, the other parts also suffer. So the strength of a system is that they work collaboratively together. That strength also becomes a weakness when one part of it is used or like one part of it is sick, it's gonna infect all other aspects. What this quote here is trying to say is that as leaders or using gentle action, we can also use the system looking at aspects of the system, components that are already there. We can also use that to have larger change. So if you go and you connect or you have an issue with one part of the system, we can talk about systemic racism. If you have success influencing one of those components, it will have an influence on the other ones just via their relationship. Okay, Daniel, I see your hand raised one more time. Yeah.
Voilà. Je pense que c'est la définition que tu viens de donner, elle est un peu très complète pour moi, dans le sens où quand on parle d'intégration, d'interaction et même d'indépendance, l'interaction, c'est l'échange entre deux personnes, deux communautés ou deux systèmes. Et je pense même que ça peut aller au-delà même de deux races ou même deux populations différentes. Alors pour moi, c'est le point qui m'a le plus touché quand tu parles de l'interaction. C'est comment est-ce que dans ce système, l'interaction se passe au niveau des races, au niveau des différences cutanées, au niveau des différences entre humains. Alors pour moi, ça fait comme un déclic dans ma tête pour me rendre compte qu'il n'y a pas seulement ce n'est pas seulement à la première couche ou bien c'est superficiel. Le racisme est un peu plus profond que ça, même au niveau d'interaction, parce que l'interaction, c'est comme à grande échelle, ça commence par deux personnes jusqu'à ce que ça devienne plus grand au niveau d'un système assez grand. Donc, pour moi aussi, on ne se rend peut-être pas compte, quand on parle du système, c'est très grand pour nous, c'est un concept très grand dans notre mental. Mais quand on parle d'interaction, cela devient plus vivant entre nous parce qu'on parle entre d'abord deux personnes et ensuite entre deux populations, entre deux races. Donc pour moi, ça a apporté ce déclic et je pense que c'est aussi important d'en parler d'une manière profonde.
So what Lavi is saying here is that when speaking about systems, like what kind of made...
Sorry, Ike. You
Daniel.
keep giving me his credit.
Sorry, Lavi, then do you want to translate? You can translate that.
I found him halfway. Please go ahead.
No problem. So what he's talking about was the point of like the interactions between systems. I think he was saying that for him, it underscores the point, highlighted the point a little bit, saying that this interaction is really like that's the action. So when we look at systemic racism, you look at the interaction between races, then you break it down, the interaction between systems, the interactions between a lot of the components in society that do interact with each other. You can see that if you have this idea or like the racist concept or like the superiority of races somewhere in your head there, and you're there within a system interacting amongst other people, that's that contact point. That's where that spread can kind of happen there. So yeah, good point there. Another characteristic that we were mentioning was that interdependence and the organization between them. So those are just a couple characteristics of what systems are. I see Christiana's back. Did you want to complete your comment there before you disconnected? Are you with us? Or are you gone again?
Can you hear me?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, there you are. Yes. Now,
okay.
I didn't even know where you were talking from. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm on my phone, so, okay. So I was going to say that from what I've heard, institutional racism is systemic racism is when institutions such as banks or government programs or other things like that, or also like the legal system, engage in racism, and that creates issues for the people who face them at a government implemented way. Does that make sense?
Perfect, flawless definition. So I think that we're starting to understand this bigger level racism, like the forces at play against you, or the forces that have helped shape your reality as well in this society. So great. We're starting to get a good grasp on that. So what makes a leader, or like what can help us have success against these systems? So what I have here, can anybody name, I'm not gonna ask any of the facilitators, who am I gonna pick on? Cristiano, can you name the two people on the screen? Cristiano, are you there? I'm always picking on him and then he comes late. Okay, how about Laurent?
Martin Luther King, and
Who's the second guy?
Huh?
Who's the second guy?
I don't know. I don't really know.
Or the second guy?
Yeah.
Hold on. Is it James? Then I forgot his last name.
Okay.
What about origin?
James.
No, doesn't go by James. How about Raisa?
I've seen him, but I forgot.
Forgot? Okay, Pamela. No. Wow. Okay. That's our first president, Joseph Kasavubu.
Oh,
Kasavubu, Casa
Wow.
Raisa, Cristiano. Oh, Pamela, come on. No, so,
wait, is it Laurent Desire
I was
Kasavubu, right?
Lumumba.
huh?
Is it like is it Laurent Desire Kasavubu, right?
Uh, no, 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 no.
I was pas ça.
Ok.
Joseph.
Laurent Désiré Mobutu.
Mobutu, okay, oh yeah.
Yeah. So Kasavubu and yeah, so it's confusing. His name was Joseph too, but Desiree no. So let's go here. I pulled an example from these two leaders that happened in 1955 each, or started out in 1955 each, and to help highlight how systems work together and how sometimes we can boil down a huge big change down to a gentle action. So in 1955, what was happening in Congo was that independence movement started to kind of be talked about. So World War II had just ended. The European powers were like a rebuilding in Europe, and it wasn't sure what was going to happen with the African colonies. The special case with Congo being that it was first held privately by King Leopold himself, because Belgium did they not want the colony? Did he manipulate them? Who knows? But at first it was just King Leopold who held on to the colony. When Belgium got the colony, that's when they started doing social works. They started building schools, they started educating people and training people to kind of run a country. So in the 1940s and 50s, they tried to start to create a very small Congolese elite, but it was still small. By the time independence came around, only about less than 20 people had any kind of college education. So seeing the trends of colonialism start to happen, in 1955, there was a Belgian professor who said that for Congo, the best thing they could do in Congo was have a gradual independence. They were going to have independence over 30 years and be able to train the Congolese. And when the Congolese are in a position to be able to take independence themselves, that's when Belgium would kind of leave. So first, there used to be political parties in Congo who started to question this. And the first way they started to question this was they started to say, so first, this colonial system is going to stay here. It's true, we're not educated. It's true, many of us aren't in a position to govern, let's say, per se. But, how can we be under a system here where they started with tax? They started with one position. How can we be here, sons of the land, being taxed, paying taxes somewhere else? So then people started to hear about this idea of taxes and started to say, this doesn't really make any sense, So riots began to break out in the Congo. And sometimes you wouldn't even know why the riot broke out. So from 1955 to 1959, the last big riot happened in 1959 after a soccer game. There was a soccer game, and almost prophetically, I think it was a white team playing a black team, and something happened. There was a riot that ended up breaking out afterwards, and people from a soccer game ended up taking on this mantle, saying, no, we can't be paying these things. We need our independence right now. Belgium ended up responding by they released certain political leaders out of jail, like almost right away, and they went to roundtable talks, and they went to very fast independence for the Congo, almost too fast. You know, so a lot of historical commentators might say that it was the historical trends. France was already getting rid of its colonies, so the other Congo was going to be free. How can Belgium hold on? Belgium's a small country, France the big country, so if France makes a move, then Belgium also has to follow. But remember, the country of Portugal, which is even smaller than Belgium, was able to hold on to its colony of Angola until the 1970s. So the reality for the people in the 50s was that we could legitimately end up being colonized for as long as, well, they didn't know, but how the Angolans were kind of going through this thing. But it took understanding a system. It took asking a question to one part of the system to have it influence all the other parts of it. You know, so when the riots are there breaking, they were reclaiming land rights and taxation, but the police had to get involved, the justice, and all the way to the point where the governor general and the kings in Belgium saying, how are we going to manage this colony, which is now in uproar, which is now uprising? You know, so it starts with very humble people. Kasavubu barely had a bachelor's degree, barely had that kind of education, but was able to lead such a movement. The other example I want to lead to is, it was in 1955-56. I think a lot of you guys know the example of the Montgomery bus riots. So does anybody want to speak on that? Does anybody know that well? So it's not just Ike talking. Okay, do you guys know the story of Rosa Parks? Well, I wrote it there anyways, it's all there. But essentially what ended up happening was Rosa Parks, a civil rights activist, was asked to yield her seat on the bus to a white person. And again, just gentle action. She refused to yield her seat. That's it. But in that era there, the response by very, very famous leaders, including Martin Luther King, was to organize a large scale boycott of that bus system there. So the Black people all refused to ride on that bus there in order to force the busing company to integrate that system, or to give people their kind of rights. I'm not doing this one as much justice as I did the Congolese story. Man, Ashley would be so upset if she was listening to me talk right here. But we have to look at the huge system of segregation. A huge system of segregation was a legal system in the South at the time. There, that system had the, oh, Jemima's here. That's good. That system had the judges and the police directly be behind it. But asking, or just making that simple action of refusing to give up your seat, and then again the gentle action of just, okay, we're not going to ride the bus, that's it, ended up having an economic influence that influenced all aspects of that system in order to produce that change there. Okay, now moving on to us here. What about us here? There's been a protest here in Calgary about the Calgary Board of Education. There was a Black Lives Matter protest in the summer, and then when school came back, there was more Black Lives Matter rallies against trying to have a change in the curriculum. When we broach this subject again on Monday, I'm going to be inviting one of my, I guess, colleague, friend. Her name is Nicole Dodd. She's actually trying to take on the Calgary Board of Education and have them have a more, or have them include Black history in the curriculum there. I think as we were talking on Monday, Jolie told the story about how when she was talking in class and she was telling the story of King Leopold, one of her teachers, what she was saying about King Leopold conflicted with what the teacher knew about King Leopold, and she ended up getting in in trouble over her comments there. When I used to run this program prior in the past, there used to be a lot more problems with coaches. Like coaches are using the N-word or playing music that did those kind of things. So how do we bring this knowledge like down to us here, or like or that kind of effect it has on us here? Just know that this isn't something that's outside of us. It's something that's very real, very relevant, current events even. That's good. Jamima, welcome. It's good. All right, I'm gonna
Sorry,
stop.
I'm late. I just got home from work.
Okay, no worries. I'm gonna just stop sharing my screen there. I'm gonna pass it over to Alyssa, who has another part of the presentation where we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into some of these things here. But just to land there, any questions, any comments, ideas, or things there? Anybody want to say something? Over Martin Luther King, Kasavubu, who you guys did not know. My God.
Just one question.
I wanted to say that thanks a lot for taking us through that, and for the young Congolese who did not grow in Congo, unlike us. There's a show you will find on YouTube from the current Minister of Education, Thomas Louraka, titled Je connais le Congo. I know the DRC, I know the Congo. Please try to look for it and watch it. So many episodes. It starts from before the colonization, how many countries tried to take over Congo and they did not succeed. All the events we went through until colonization, independence, and after independence until today. It will really help you to know where you are coming from. And the last one is, about including the Black history in the curriculum here in Canada. I don't know. Mandela said that the emancipation of one race should not be the enslavement of the other. As they in Congo or in Africa, we are against our curriculum being full with the white history or written by white people. And now we are here, we want ours to be part of our content to be part of the history, because ending the racism will be fairness, means fairness. We need to be fair with each other. What I accept there in Africa should also be done here. What is done here, I need to accept it in Africa against towards other races. So that side, there have been revolution, how we need to revolutionize the content of our curriculum and take away the white one, what mostly deal with the white history. How easy is that going to be done here to include the Black history in the curriculum? But also we have the Chinese, we have the Indians who will now claim also for their parts to be involved in. I'm not being negative, but I'm just looking at how is that going really to be done. Yeah.
Good. Any other comments?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too. How is that gonna be done? I mean, where were they like a long time ago? This is something that we should have knew when we were in high school and all that. And but it's good. But it's good that it's coming. Yeah.
No, great comments here, because what I want us to think about is to think about systems here. So, and being fair to people and how power dynamics can play a role into things there. So let's say if we start to say, because the argument is there, why do you want to include Black history when there's Chinese kids, Indian kids, all sorts of kids here, and you want to focus on one group particularly? Let's say that's the claim there. Or like Africans have been able to teach their own history to their own kids, or furthermore in Africa we might not accept white history in our schools, so how can we be asking that to be included here? I think like if we look at power dynamics and how things just kind of work, I think like that's where I can I can have more of like a response there. If we think of like systems here, if we see there's a system that's producing a lot of, let's say, particularly Black youth here, you know, so we have to look, okay, how are these Black youth being educated? Now, first, what do those Black youth know about themselves? And furthermore, what would the police know about those particular
I need her fur to be brushed,
would know virtually nothing of them?
and we
Because
don't have
Black
a
people,
comb in the room, so I need a comb to brush her fur. Are you doing this? Okay.
that's Colonies there, man.
You go and ask Grandma, maybe she has.
You know, so like how is that going to sorry, looking at the realities and the influence. What does a Black kid know about himself? What would a policeman know about that African? How would the justice system then further interact with that Black youth? Like, that's just one example. Or like Black girls not learning about their heroes in school, or like other people not hearing about Black heroes in school. I think if we look at its core, if we look at how everything influenced things, like history for Black people was something that was always taken away from us. It was did I start with that quote at the beginning part? Like, I think that was like week 2 or something. We're talking about in the schools, like Africa was seen as having no history. It was seen as a continent of darkness, and darkness isn't a subject matter of history. So scientific history oftentimes tried to exclude Black people from the currents of the world. We were literally erased from there for a really long time, and science tried to prove its own thesis that we were lesser than, but continually erasing us from those areas. So the Indian, the Chinese, other people have a slightly different experience with, I can say, history. If we look at the African's history is something that's really been a totally different. Now, how do we value ourselves and value other races? By bringing this back in, by saying, no, we are capable of doing the positions, and we've been doing it for a long time. Like, look, take a look, like all these examples here. But if no one ever knows that, or no one ever encounters that, how are attitudes going to change? How's that deep change going to actually take place? And I think that's a good landing.
Can I say something?
Sorry?
Can you say something, really?
Yes, go ahead and say something, then I'll ask Alyssa to kind of take over from
Yeah, thank you again. Those are good stuff and the good questions, and we brought a really good remarks there. But what's one thing I've learned from the mission of the Koreans, South Korean people, you know, they mainly educating their children in American system, although they learn English and all. But what they've done, they don't want to forget about their culture and their history and what. You hear me very well?
Yeah, go ahead. It's good. Okay.
Maybe I should use the anyway. What they have done, they something we can learn and to value ourselves, and then to educate our people ourselves. The problem is we still have as a problem that if the thing is not taught in what we call a curriculum, official curriculum, then it's not a knowledge, which is not true. There is what you call that extra curriculum. Also, you can learn from that. It's a good beginning because we've been denying our own history. Of late, who was that? Is the president of France, not the current one, the former. Who was this? He made a statement saying that Africa does not have history, which is very wrong. And some historians of Africa started reacting. But good to react. But what are we doing Are we educating ourselves, our own people about our own history? I think what you started is a good thing. You can learn from that. If it can grow like you said it, like we have an extra curriculum, maybe going through an extra curriculum, the scholars will learn and say that there's something we need to put at least somewhere. Not fighting to go that they should put that in a curriculum in a university so it can be recognized. No, I think let's start it. What I would like to promote that we like a self-conscious. No, nous voulons nous-mêmes tout d'abord nous valoriser et enseigner notre histoire. Et je crois que at that point they'll take it serious. It's a good point. I don't know if you are really getting me what I'm saying here. It should not be just, it has to be in the curriculum, or official curriculum, but it can be an extra curriculum thing. So we teach our own people, our own history, and then it can evolve from there.
Interesting. We can debate that for a long time. There was a few things there. I don't know, Uncle. But
okay, no, go ahead. Yeah.
No. I think maybe after I'm gonna pass it over to Alyssa for now, and then we're gonna go through a few more slides, and then we're gonna develop this because we're gonna be talking about it more even Monday as well when Nicole comes through, and so we can really talk about the topic.
Okay.
Yeah, but for now, I'm going to pass it over to Alyssa, who has a couple visuals and exercises we can go through to help.
Yeah, I think there will also be some time to continue that conversation in just a moment. I have a bit of an interactive activity that I think will bring out some of that conversation as well. So I don't know if I've actually met everyone who's here because I wasn't here last week. I was here the first week. But so for those who don't know me, my name's Alyssa. I get to work with Ike every day, so we work on supporting youth leaders to be change leaders, exploring these ideas of gentle action and systems change and things like that. So yeah, that's what's bringing me here today. Ike's invited me to come and share some of the thoughts and some of the activities that we get to work on together with you guys. One thing I wanted to share, and I don't think I can share my screen. Oh, I can now. I couldn't before, but I can now.
I just did it.
Okay. Let me share my screen. So I want to share a slide. And this slide shows the 6 conditions of systems change. This is from it's from a group called FSG. I don't actually know what FSG stands for, but they're an organization that specializes in systems change and leading systems change, and they do it in all different ways, like all different areas. They do a lot of work, a lot of anti-racism work. They do a lot of work in various different systems and thinking about how do we shift systems and not just address sort of like the surface level problems or conditions, but how do we change the underlying system problems that are causing so many of the social issues in our world. And they're based in the US, but they work in a bunch of different countries around the world, and they study this idea of systems change. And 2 years ago, they published this paper called The Water of Systems Change, and it sort of lays out these 6 conditions at 3 different levels that they are claiming are sort of the biggest drivers of change within systems. But they're also, in the same way, they're the biggest things that sort of hold systems in place and hold systems in the ways that we don't want them to be. And so there's 2 ways that you can look at them. You can look at them as sort of the things that keep these sort of systems that aren't working well in place or hold up things like racism, or you can look at them as sort of leverages or points for change. And I want to take a little bit and talk about them in both of those senses today, but maybe we'll just go through them first. So yeah, I really liked everything that people were sharing around that idea of systems change. To me, systems change is really about it's about sort of getting to those deeper levels. It's not just the things you see in an interaction, but it's like what's causing that interaction to actually happen. And when you talk about it's and I love the definition of systems as like all the things that work together. And so it's how do we change all those things that work together that hold things in place. The top level, I think, is where like a lot of people actually think in sort of the most common thought is around systems change. And it's in some ways sort of like the most visual part of systems change. But at the same time, it is sort of the more surface level systems change. So policies are rules, regulations, government legislation. They could be formal or informal, but they're things that sort of people abide by. They're kind of like the guiding principles of a system or of a society. And yeah, so that looks like in a school, it might be the rules that exist. In a city, it might be the bylaws. But they're that sort of like formalized agreements of here's how we're going to work together. And those hold systems in place. There's also practices. So sometimes practices line up with policy, sometimes practice that looks different than policy, but it's what people actually do. And it's the like, not just one action, but it's like that like repetitive sort of activities that people do on a regular basis. And the third thing is resource flows. And resources can be money, they can be people, they can be knowledge, it can be information, but it's how do those things, how are they allocated and how is it distributed? And that holds systems in place, because if all the knowledge is going to one group of people, that's going to hold, you know, a certain thing in place versus if knowledge is going to different people. And that's often, I think, what people really think about when they think about systems changes are like, let's change policy, let's change, you know, how resources are distributed. But the truth is that you can change some of those things, but still not have systems change, because those are actually underlined by some more powerful things, which here they're calling sort of that semi-explicit levels, and like what causes those things to be the way they are. They're saying that relationships and connections are sort of a deeper level, that like quality of interactions and communication that occurs between different parts of the system, that actually is something that holds problems in place, but also is like a really important leverage point for change. And power dynamics, Ike was talking a lot about power dynamics. Power dynamics sort of determine where resources flows. They determine what policies are created. And so those power dynamics of which individuals are able to make decisions, are able to have authority, are able to have influence, that is like a really important driver of systems change. But even those aren't sort of the deepest level of systems change in what they're talking about. What they say is that like actually what drives those power dynamics and what drives those relationships and connections are the mental models that we hold. There are beliefs, there are assumptions, and what shapes those are sort of the narratives we hear and the stories that we're told. And that shapes how we think about the world. And then that then sort of goes up and changes the other levels. And from their studying of systems, they say like, if you really want to create change in a system, what you really have to address are the mental models of the different parts that are in that system, and change how people think about the problem, and change how people change the beliefs that people have. So you can kind of go up and down through these. I'm going to stop there. Does anyone have any questions or things they want to add? Does that make sense? Anything that doesn't not super clear?
I just have one question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify. So are you saying that in order for a systems change to happen, you have to work from the ground up? So first of all, you do transformative change and then you move up that way. Is that how it's supposed to happen? or is there no set order for systems
Yeah, I
change?
don't think there's necessarily one set order, but I think what this is trying to say is that like you can't, like if you really want to drive deep systems change, you can't just change sort of the policies or the practices, because if those relationship dynamics or those power dynamics don't change, even if you change, you know, like where money is flowing, people like are gonna, it's not gonna be as permanent of a change, or it's not going to like new money might come in and then, you know, go around that. The system's not going to like fundamentally shift unless you get down to those deeper levels. But I don't think it necessarily means you have to do one first or then the other. Like I think a big part of systems change and gentle action and that I was talking about is that like there's not one thing or one specific order. It's actually lots of little changes that are all kind of coming together to at all of these levels that make the change happen. And you know, you can't just change one person's mental model, you have to change many mental models, and so that it's not any like one specific order. I think they interact in the way that any system, like this is almost a system in itself, is what I would say.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Great question. I don't know. I'm willing to be challenged on that too, though. If someone thinks that there is like a order that needs to happen in, I just love to hear it.
I think maybe like this is where I'll bring up that discussion we were having about the education system and changes there. I think if we change just, let's say, like, and I'm using just an example, literally just going off of what Alyssa just said, and pretty much as a ploy just to get more conversation happening. But I'm saying here, like, if, for example, only practices are changed, let's say there is Black History Month celebrated at all Calgary public schools, and we change that practice and policy. But does it change the, like, would that change the proliferation or like how much racism we kind of see out there? So this is what I was saying to Papa Ndembe. So let's say Black History Month is there, it's put out there, but only Black youth show up to it. Only the Black youth at the schools. At the deeper level, at that transformative level, the people from other races might still hold on to the exact same racist beliefs that they held before like Black History Month like even started. So if you think black people are only good at dancing, singing, that kind of stuff, Black people need help in terms of managing their affairs, Black people come from only banana republics, blah blah blah, that, like, if you're not affected by it at that deeper level, I feel like that change then is kind of blocked, or like that change, or like it's like how much change are we actually seeing happen if like at that transformative deep level people's attitudes aren't shifting, people aren't seeing that kind of benefit there. I just wanted to throw that out there to see what people thought, and to see maybe Papa Ndembe, did you want to respond to like that, to see if you...
Okay, if you allow me to say something, I'll say something. The problem is not, race is not a problem, but racism, that is the problem. Because if anything we can change, you cannot change, we can change racism, but we cannot change the race. We will be, well, our history will follow us. I will not share the same history than an Indian, because we are different. Okay, but where we find the problem that we find the problem of accepting one another the way, we are with our history. That's the problem. That's where the racism comes, because we see my history is more important than your history. That's where the problem is. But if, like, following my sister what is explained here, in fact, I will say that this should be the upside down. I mean, the basic should be, well, I understand why it is down there because it's the base and is more important than the mental models. Because if the mentality is not changed, nothing else will work up there. Nothing. So I would say that having people, because the last time I think what we ended up is to try to define who we are, our vision, which is that we take pride in our Israel. So and I think that's where, to me, the call of change it is. So people, they know who they are. They know what they can do. So it's not a matter of saying that, oh, we are better than others. No. At least there's a prise de conscience. Right? So once it's changed there, and I think other things that they start respecting who we are, because we respect ourselves. We know who we are. And that's by giving an example, maybe I did not get me very well there. It is like what I would say, I admire the Koreans because they want to keep their culture wherever they go. In fact, in one of a big school I know in Kenya, the student, they have courses like everyone else. It is an American curriculum, but beside that, they send their own teachers. They have extra curriculum where they teach the same student in their own language, and then they keep the culture. And so you see what they are not. They go along with everybody, but they know that we are Koreans, and so it's not a competition, but they know their roots. I think that's what I mean. It's not that well, meanings are in the minds of the people. If I want to live as a Congolese, I think I'm proud of that. But somebody may think, oh, wow, he wants to feel is more important than others. That's where the problem is. Let me stop there.
All right, before continuing, can I ask Pamela, can you read the quote I sent in the chat there? Read it out for everybody.
Okay. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring.
All right, that's a quote from Martin Luther King. I threw that in there. I think it also fits in this. So edifice is just another word for, you can use it as system, blah, blah, blah. Looking towards restructuring things, looking towards having that deeper change. I want you guys to hold on to that thought as well as Alyssa continues on.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump to a thing that actually connects super well. I was gonna just like quickly go through, I think a really good example of this model, if we think of like Rosa Parks on the bus, like Rosa Parks changed, like the mental model changed there, right? It's like that change in that, like, it doesn't, like, I'm not going to go to the back of the bus, right? There was that shift, and that, like, through relationships and connections that, like, shifted, then that caused boycotts, that changed the power dynamics that people held, which then, like, ended up changing policies and practices and resource flows. Anyway, I think that's just an example I was going to throw out there to sort of see, like, how it's like that narrative changed, and that, like, one narrative change can have a really big impact on the system overall. And it's not just about that, like, one specific instance. It's about how do we shift sort of everything that's holding that in place, which I think your quote, Ike, really speaks to. What I'd like to do, I don't know, did you guys, Ike, have you guys used Jamboards yet or not?
No.
Okay. So I've set up a Jamboard, and a Jamboard is just like an interactive, it's like a whiteboard. If we were in person, we'd have a big whiteboard. I'm going to send a link in the chat if you can click on it and go to it, you'll all be able to like edit it and add, and we can put up post-it notes and stickies and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the link. Here it is. I'm going to throw that in the chat. Oops. So if you click on that link, it'll take you, it's a Google document online thing. You'll join, and I've got this, and I want to do a bit of a brainstorm. So I want to use that example of racism in schools in Calgary Board of Education. And we're going to sort of break that down and think about sort of first question is like, what are the conditions that are holding that problem in place? And so you can add sticky notes, but feel free to just call things out, and I can try and add stuff in if you don't want to type. But on the left side there, anyone can add a sticky note. So feel free to add your own sticky notes. So we sort of had the levels. The events are like what's visible. So what do we see that shows us that there's racism in Calgary Board of Education? But then going down sort of below the surface of this iceberg model, what are the policies, what are the practices, what are the resource flows that are holding racism in Calgary Board of Education? And then deeper than that, what are the relationships or connections, or what are the power dynamics that are holding that in place? And then below that, what are the mental models that is holding racism in Calgary Board of Education? So yeah, I'm hoping we can break that down a little bit just to understand this model a bit more. And I think it'll be like a good sort of starting point, or like prep for the conversation next week as well. Sweet, someone's added something. Unwillingness to educate themselves. Who's them? Selves. The Calgary Board of Education, I'm assuming, is unwilling to educate or to learn. So am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that's what I meant. The
yeah.
CBE, yeah. Just trying to find where to put the stick.
Yeah, where do you think it should go? Yeah, great. I love some of these. So yeah, what we see in event is harsher punishment for Black males. That's the events, that's the effects that we see of sort of some of these policies and practices that's holding racism in place.
Did anybody here go to French school?
Yeah, a long time ago.
I did.
You did?
Oh no, our board just got erased.
What have been your experiences in like the French school system versus the English school system?
I was like 9 years old, but I forgot. Can't even lie, I forgot. I was 9.
I don't really know if, like, I can't really compare because like all of my secondaire was high school, and it's just like now this is like the first time that I go to like an English school for university. So I don't really know like how to compare French school to English schools, other than the fact that like it's way smaller. Like there's a smaller like population in French schools, since obviously we're in an English province and city and stuff like that.
I see. Like, do they teach about Black history like in French schools more? Like, was that a regular subject, or?
Not really. Honestly, I don't think there was more of like talk about Black history or like even Black History Month and stuff like that. Not really. I can say for my elementary school, that's when like it was a lot more like for Black History Month, the month of February, like they'd get like everybody in your class to like they'd have like a couple Black people like be like, okay, make up a dance, and then the whole rest of the class will learn it and present it at the show. Like my elementary school was really like, yeah. So that was my
In Alberta, or is that Quebec?
that was in Ontario.
Ontario. Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, in Ontario they were pretty serious. Like February we'd have like talent shows as well and stuff like that, and they'd like make us do skits about like Africa. Yeah, it was, yeah. High school, not at all.
My case, I can compare them quite clearly. I did junior high in French, and then for high school, I went to an Anglophone school. And when it comes to Black History Month, like in the Francophone schools that I went to, there was absolutely no mention of Black people or even like Black History Month. We never really spoke about it ever. We even studied like Japan and like Chinese history, but never discussed any African country or even Black Canadian history at all. But in my Anglophone schools, we did. And we also learned about political regimes in Africa, such as Mobutu and all that stuff. So it was a lot more inclusive in Anglophone schools than in French.
Sorry, what did you end up learning in Anglophone schools?
Political regimes in Africa, and as well as like the names of like most of the political leaders as well. Like you learn about Mobutu and what's his name, Lumumba. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Like so my wife's aunt is like a big time historian for like the Black Canadian experience here in Alberta. Like, did you guys ever hear about Black Albertans or Black people who came here in Alberta, helped settle the land? Did you guys ever hear those kind of stories? Like, and anybody, like maybe not just Africa specific, but just generally Black people?
Definitely.
I did about a settler family. I think what the man was called John Wayne or maybe something like that. I don't remember. But he did participate in a stampede and stuff, and he was like a pretty good horseback rider.
Exactly. So how many people have heard those kind of stories about John Wayne? So Felicia, you have, like, did you learn it in school?
No, my best friend's family came from Tammy, right? Came
Oh,
from
no.
the settlers.
Yeah.
So I know all about it. Amber Valley, the first ones to come through the Underground Railroad and settle in Alberta. So yeah.
But you didn't learn it through official channels.
No, not until I met her. I didn't even really know of Black Canadians. Like, what were the original Black Canadians? Had no idea until we became friends and meeting her and like the rest of Ashley's family and stuff. No clue.
Yeah, and honestly, I sometimes feel like this is the reason why I even like married Ashley. Like, it's weird. Like personally, like when I first came back to like Canada, I had a teacher, because I told the teacher I'm Canadian, I was born here, blah blah blah, and the teacher asked me if there was anybody white in my family, and at the time I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, man. And like did this, so like I didn't know that I always had this kind of chip on my shoulder, but I had this kind of belief, okay, Canadian equals white, Canadian equals white, Canadian equals white. And it wasn't literally until second year or even third year university where second year, Cheryl did her exposition about the history of Black people here, how Black people arrived here. So they were part of the first wave.
Yeah.
My migration, like we're typically second or third wave. So the first wave of migration was all African Americans that were coming here right around when Alberta was turned into a province, like the turn of the century, 1905. And you can see some of the articles that were written, go back, we don't want Black people here. So that identity of wanting to keep Alberta white, that's old school, very stubborn, kind of belief. So like when I found out that there had been Black people here in Canada or in this part of Canada for a long time who had a great impact, I don't know, it makes you feel like you belong a whole lot better. Like at least for me, having been told that by that teacher, like like I didn't get closure from that experience until, you know, having like met with Cheryl and like meeting Ashley, and like, yeah, and dating Ashley. I'm like, yeah, I felt like that was sexy. I'm like, you're from, you know, you're Black from here. So like that was absolutely points. But I feel like, you know, like for me, like getting close to like that deeper level of changing like the mindsets and things like that, I feel like it's important even for us, you know. It's, yes, the other like dominant groups and outside groups, it is important that they know about Black history and know about our like contribution here, especially so that we're not always seen as people looking for a handout, people look at beggars, people who are benefiting off of something other people built because we can't build anything ourselves. Like I used to like work with a guy who'd always like want to compare countries, be like, look what Canada built, well, Canada's awesome like this. And like if somebody was from like Lebanon and really proud of themselves, they'd be like, Lebanon's nothing, blah blah blah. And, you know, like, or like, and he'd say the same about Africa, be like, you guys at the end of the day haven't done anything, you haven't produced anything that has benefited my world or my life, but we've given you all of this. And I feel like that's at the foundation of like a lot of the like racism that we kind of face. Like when I was there with like teachers who couldn't believe that, like because I could be like rambunctious and I could also be like quite studious at times, and like that, like they couldn't really believe that I'm writing this poem or like I'm writing this paper or I'm doing this because the, I don't know, like what they've been fed or like what's been put inside them hasn't shifted enough. They're kind of sorry, I kind of spoke for a long time, but maybe we'll pass it back over to Pamela. Pamela, you read that quote there, but what's kind of your thought, your perspective on this discussion here?
Well, when I first saw it, I thought about like homeless people and how that quote applies to them because hold on, let me see it.
It doesn't have to be like
It's
about
like,
the quote, but about this, the discussion generally.
oh,
Yeah, you don't have to link it specifically to, unless you want to.
oh, can you come back to me?
No problem.
Yeah.
How about Laura?
Um, yeah, when you were talking about the French schools and the English schools comparison, yeah, I've been to like a French school since well, my whole life until I switched to until high school came along and I had to go to an English school and like learning like going to English school was like a whole like experience because I was always focused on French. Like I always learned everything about French, but now since it was like English, it was like a whole experience, a whole atmosphere. I had to change up my English. I had to go to my English accent because whenever I speak in French, people won't understand what I'm saying.
Did you cut off there? Laurent?
Uh,
Laurent, I think you cut off.
oh, well, want me to say it again or?
Yeah, you're saying that putting on your English accent and everything, and then
Yeah, I had to like switch it up a bit and like yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. That's what I was trying to explain on that part.
I
Yeah.
see. And then did you feel like you learned more about like Black history in English school or like in French school um or like how did you feel like I used to hear that you and like Litia and stuff would complain about racist teachers in the French school. Did you guys experience like racist teachers in the English school too, or like what was the thing there?
Well, I think I was in grade. grade 7 or grade 8. It was a music class, and my music teacher was like one of my friends. He is from like, I think he's from Lebanon. I think he was just talking, and my teacher said to him, "Oh, what are you doing? Are you making a bomb or something?" And the whole class was like shook and like angry at the teacher for saying that, and it was very like messed up.
Okay, that's good. And then over to Cristiano. Cristiano, you still with us?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No problem, man.
So what's the question? Because
What's your experience like? Did you do high school here?
oh yeah,
Did you go to French or English school?
English.
What was your experience there? Like, did you learn much about Black history, or like, did you feel represented in that?
Uh, I mean, there's can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I still like remember like it was I think it was on my gym class, and then one of my I don't know, we're not friends. Like, I mean, we're not close friends, but I don't know if he was joking, and then the guy told me that. Oh, sorry. Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And the guy, I don't know if it was joking. He said that you guys should go back where you guys came from, and then I was shocked. And then I never talk about it. I never like.
I think you cut out now.
Oh, I think my wife was begging.
You're saying that the teacher said that and you never talk about it, but
Oh yeah, so because I was with one of my friend, like he's black too, and then he was like, "Yo, you should go to the principal and talk to the principal." But I didn't do it because, you know, I I didn't want to make like I didn't want it to make it like a big thing, you know. So yeah, that's the only thing I know about racist on the on this school.
okay, good. Before we continue, do you guys remember this article here? Do you guys remember seeing this in the news?
Hello?
Yeah.
Lost my Wi-Fi.
Okay. No worries. Who was around for this year? I can't be the only one who's seen this article. Christiana, Jamima, Raisa, Pamela.
I haven't seen it.
Sorry?
I haven't seen it.
Neither have I. I don't think I heard of this.
I haven't seen it too.
You haven't seen it either, eh?
I
No.
have.
Who's saying I have?
Me.
Who's
At Instagram, it was really like famous. Like it really, everyone, a lot of people shared it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it was, I don't know, a teacher. I think she said the N word to a student, and the student recorded it. I don't know if it's this one, but the student recorded it and posted it online, and it was a huge deal.
Exactly. Let's maybe read the article real quick so that we all get set here. So Catholic School Board has apologized days after a recording surfaced of a principal using the N-word in a discussion with a group of Black. 4 students at St. Michael's School were recording Principal Leanne Anderson's remarks without her knowledge and posting it online, something the school board said violates the students' code of conduct, CBC News reported Wednesday. Chief Superintendent Brian, I'm not going to try, apologized Friday on behalf of this Calgary Catholic School District. I want to share our deepest apologies. It's never appropriate to share a word like that, no matter what the context. We're gonna end it there in terms of reading. Please continue to read the article, like if you're kind of interested in that. But like, I feel like these kind of things like really connect to that. Let me stop sharing. Alyssa, do you mind sharing your screen again and that upside down triangle? You know, so if we look at like issues like this and what Alyssa was trying to get us to like write on the sticky notes on the a kind of jam board there is, if we look at issues like this that do happen in like Calgary, we can see like even just reading the first paragraph of that, or the first 2 paragraphs of that article, there is you can see how policies and practices always come kind of firsthand. So the first thing that happened was the students got suspended because they were recording that teacher. So that there was, even if you read in some kind of places, people were defending the teacher, saying Black people use the N-word all the time. How come if this teacher used it, then they get in trouble, but if Black people use it, then it's not a big deal there. But the policy and practice of recording somebody without their knowledge, there was immediate action over that. It wasn't until there was the outcry that Raisa is talking about online on Instagram, and there was another kind of Black Lives Matter rally for all students in Calgary. I should actually invite the lady who organized that. I know her. She organized a rally for all Black students in Calgary to kind of walk out and make a stand against this kind of racism. It's only when that big outcry kind of came out that days after that the school responded and said, okay, you know, we should never use this word. It's bad, blah, blah, blah. They're going now to the deeper level, like that kind of mental model, saying, oh, because this outcry there happened, now we've changed, now we shifted, now things are kind of different there. So before we close up for today, anybody want to share a couple thoughts about that particular example as it relates to this model here? Lavia, go ahead.
Okay, I like hearing from the young ones. However, when they don't share, then we can help in one other way. I would like to say that we don't have to be apologetic to be who we are and defend ourselves everywhere we go. Every race around the world need to be represented. Everyone around the world need to be respected. We are all human beings. There's what we call intrinsic value. You are not valued because of the house you own, the car you own, or the university qualification you have. We are all respected or valued because we are human beings to begin with, and we have values in us. So we don't have to be apologetic. We don't have to keep our head down. Everywhere we go, be who you are. We need to defend ourselves wherever our right is threatened. However, there's something I want to I want to touch on based on Alicia's presentation. I don't have a contradiction. This model, it is my very first time to see it. And it is more, yeah, I was wowed to see it. My very first time, as I was saying. You know, I like referring to Bible. I'm a Christian, and please don't feel offended. I also value other religious confessions. The Bible in the book of Job 32 verse 8 says, in reality, in human being, there's spirit. That is what guides us. That is what inspires us, our thoughts, our opinion, and everything we do, our spirit, the spirit of God in us. So the model, at the bottom of the model, there is the metal. And we speak about the three functions of human spirit. We have intellect, we have emotion, and we have passion. Those are the things that drive our spirit, and therefore, at the end, our spirit guides our human being, the whole human being that we are. So I do agree that, yeah, before we can focus on other big things, policies, practices, and so on, what do we have in our minds? What do I have in my mind towards or against the next person, against that Indian person, against that white person, against the black person? We really need to teach ourselves the right thing. And Mandela said that victims of today, victimizers of tomorrow. We need to be careful when we are victims today. What is our effort to try to put down the next person, the victim, or do we, our effort is to lift ourselves up, no, to our equal or to our normal position? It is very important to focus on, no, rebuilding our image as human being, whether you are Chinese, Indian, or whoever, wherever you are mistreated, focus only on rebuilding your image, your identity, then focusing on putting the next person down. We'll put them down, and tomorrow they put us down, and so on. This is not going to end. We need to really be careful. There is, I was having this type of conversation with a group of guys I hosted at my place, and one of my neighbors he's like a big brother to me. We run with him. I would say he's white. We call each other my white brother, my black brother. So he says that what is the problem with us? We try to be politically correct, calling each other I am brown or he is brown, and the other one is Caucasian, or else what is in our mind ourselves we are aware of. You may call the next person Caucasian or brown, but you treat them as black or you treat them as white, you are against them. That is the problem. Mindset, it all starts from here. We need to clear our minds on each other and look at each other not like up or below, but as equal, and treat each other with respect. I think that's the best way we will move out of this situation. And for you, the young ones, honestly speaking, this battle is beyond our capacity as one single human being. Everywhere you go at school or wherever, understand that you have people who are willing and ready to defend or stand besides you to fight this battle. Whatever you go through, being with your teacher, being with your principal, whoever you feel that they have more power than you, there are other people, there are organizations that are there to support you. Please don't keep it to yourself. This is abuse. Voice it out, find someone to talk to. You will find proper channel through which this can be voiced out. You will be accompanied. That's what I wanted to say.
Perfect. Perfect. Let's maybe get a youth representative before we close up. Who hasn't spoken in a while? Let's get everyone to just say maybe a closing thought. I think what we'll do is we're gonna revisit this model again and revisit these things on Monday. I know you guys told me you guys wanted to go a little bit deeper, entrer dans la profondeur là. We did that today, but I think that my material is a little bit heavy. I think that we can end up bringing this back, maybe extending that a little bit there. But just get final thoughts. We're just gonna go in quick order here, and then hopefully we'll be wrap up. Let's try to wrap up everything in 10 minutes. So try to keep your comments with a conclusion kind of in mind. Let's start with Raisa.
I knew it. I knew it.
You're just the first one on my screen there. Don't think I'm picking on you.
I'm just gonna say that I think we should. I feel like we should really have organizations where we speak on our cultures and all that, so that we can all be on the same page, and so that we can all know our history, because most of us don't really know where we come from. You know, we just hear facts and all that, but we're not always 100% sure. But what else could I say? We should really, and we should also be encouraging ourselves to learn more on our history, our past, and not just slavery, because that's all we hear about. You know, we always hear about slavery. We don't need just to hear about slavery. We need to hear more than just that. Black success and all that. Yeah.
Perfect. Laurent.
Yeah, what Raisa said, that yeah, we can't get knowledge from like, oh, slavery this, slavery that. Like we have to know like the true story of what caused that, like what's behind all that, and what's like not just slavery, but like the accomplishments that like the Black history have did, and what they shown to the world. Yeah, that's what I see. That's what I want to know.
I
Yep.
see. But do you think we can do it understanding systems? We were talking about systems all day. Systems change. But yeah, go ahead.
I guess, yeah, I think we can understand with the systems that we can like uh it's hard to explain, but
That
I
was
know
already a good answer. All you needed to say is if we understand the systems and the house. No. But did you do feel like you have at least a good working, like if somebody was to say systemic racism out there, like do you feel like you would understand what they were talking about now?
yeah, I'll understand.
Okay. Okay, that's good. We're gonna develop this a bit more, so we'll have more chance. Let's go, Felicia. Did you want to say a word?
Today was good. It was insightful. I liked everything that was shared, and yeah, every week I learned something, so it's good.
That's great, but what did you learn today? Closing part of
Oh, well, I learned about that video. How did I not know that about that teacher that swore or said that the N-word? I didn't even know that, and I know everything. So I don't know how that slipped past me, but no, yeah, I like that the systems, like I think the triangle thing that Alyssa shared. It's good to know how it gets put together and the different levels and stuff. Yeah.
No, honestly, thank you guys for paying attention. I did warn you guys this would be our more probably PowerPoint heavy session. It's we have to understand what the field is kind of saying, but you guys stayed with us, so it's good. Let's go, Pam. This is us coming back to you.
Yeah, I just don't really have much to say from like the other person because I grew up in English school and I did the best school.
Wait, sorry, we're kind of having a hard time there.
Oh, I don't know.
Better.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying like, good. Okay, I was just saying that like I grew up in English schools and I don't have much to say on that. Like, just always felt really singled out, being like one out of 3 Black kids in a school of 900 plus. So it wasn't like the best experience. But as like a wrap up note, sometimes like less is more, because with the Montgomery bus thing that happened, like that peaceful protest caused a lot of change, and we have to be careful to also be kind with whatever we're going to protest, because cancel culture is on the rise. And with something like the Catholic school board, my nieces and nephews go to Catholic school, and there are lots of things that go on that aren't okay. So just being careful how we try to bring about change, that it's never in a cruel way.
You're canceled for saying that. Why are you talking?
What? Well, we shouldn't cancel culture, because it doesn't do anything.
Great points. Great points there. Jamima, I know you came a little bit late, but what were you trying to, or what did you gather from today's session?
Well, I wanted to go back to the school things as well, because like I never really realized how, like, first of all, I went to like La Rose Sauvage, which is like a really small French school, pourri. Anyways,
Pourri.
très pourri.
I went to that school.
Très
Yes.
pourri.
Wow.
But like, it's just crazy to think how like la plupart des gens that go to like French public schools in English environments are gonna be Black and like Africans and stuff like that, you know? So it's just, I kind of felt like a lot of like the white, because I think we had like what, one Black teacher and then like a few like Black substitute teachers, but like I kind of felt like all the white teachers were kind of like a little bit like what's the word, like intimidated or like felt threatened by all the students because we're so many Black kids. And like, you know, I kind of felt like most of the times like they were like threatened by us, or like felt intimidated by us, and that's kind of why like they don't really talk to us about like all the great things that Black people have done, because it's just kind of like a out of sight, out of mind type of thing. So it's just crazy how like the fact that we're so many Black people, and not even only Black people, but like immigrants just in general, yet they don't talk about us at all, you know. So that's kind of crazy. And then also just the fact that like about the African Canadian thing, or like Black Canadian thing, like I never really understood that concept either, because in my mind it's only African American, and if you're Canadian, then like your parents just came here recently type of thing. I don't know how to explain it, but like to me, like Black Canadian wasn't really a thing like it is African American, I guess. And it's crazy that I wasn't taught that in school either, right? And then I also had like my manager one time ask me like, oh, do you relate more to African Canadians or Africans just in general? And I was like, what? Like, I'm not understanding your question, because it's like, I'm first generation Canadian. So I'm the first generation in my family to be born in Canada. But in a way, like, I still connect to my history and to Congo. So I connect more to like the African folks. And like most of the people, I don't know any people who are just Canadian, or like any Black people who are like, oh yeah, my grandma's Canadian and my great grandma. Like I don't know people like that. Like I only know people who are either born in Congo or they're first generation like me. So just not having heard about like, you know, Black Canadians growing up, it was kind of weird to me, because it's a thing, and so it should be talked about more, especially in like French Canadian schools and stuff like that, because that's most of the people in those schools are going to be Black Canadians, right? So yeah.
Honestly, it's so crazy. Like Ashley is like one of those people where like my wife Ashley, people will often come up to her and be like, oh, okay, where are you from? And like, I'm from Canada. Where are your parents from? From Canada. Where are your grandparents from? From Canada. And like, you know, like she's one of those people where like she challenges people, be like, I can probably beat you by like when your people immigrated here. Mine immigrated here 18 something, you know, and no, my blah, 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 blah. And like, but it's also really strange to them that people just don't know about them. And so like whenever she has to like respond to people about like where she's from, like even like I'll get her to come down and talk on it, even like with other Africans, it's always like they need to carve out an identity or a place for them, but they are around. Like once you kind of meet one, you meet like the whole kind of crew.
I've never in my life have I met anyone who isn't like either born in Africa or like first generation, never, which is crazy. Yeah.
That is very interesting. Good stuff. So I think Cristiano, Laurent, you guys spoke. Let's go Christiana.
Okay, so I guess what I wanted to say is with regards to people saying that we should know our history and also the pyramid that we saw with share. I guess
Would
I
you
would
mind
say
speaking up a
that.
little bit?
Oh, okay, sorry. I guess what I have to say, many people were mentioned that we should know our history as Africans and Africans, and I was thinking that in order to be able to do that, and you should really tackle maybe the upper crust of the systems change inverted triangle that Alyssa showed us, and really start recording our history as well. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that the tradition of like just the oral tradition of history that exists in Africa really needs to kind of be set aside for a bit, and people should really start documenting and recording history. Because I think that's one major reason why people don't really know about Africa, is that things are just not written down. That's one of the biggest issues, and we still have this tradition of kind of just orally telling these things, but don't write them down. And that's probably why people don't really know the history and what happened. And I think someone else told me as well that most African families don't know their family history up in like preceding the last 4 generations. And I think it's also because we don't take the time or even like the initiative to really leave behind traces of our humanity and actually document things like I was born here, I moved here, things like that. Like we don't really have database or even journals where people write, like people show who they are and what happened to them. So I think it's really hard to like form a database of history when people are just faces, but there's no story accompanying them. Like we do know the stories of some major politicians, but that's basically it. And there's just a lack of documented history that we need. And I think we're still kind of stuck in that mentality of like just talk about it, it's fine. But we do need to like accompany the modern world and really start like writing down and keeping track of it. That was just my 2 cents, I guess.
Okay, that's good. We're definitely going to talk more about the writing aspect of things, because definitely that's an idea that's very stubborn. The concept that if Africans may not have written, or like what constitutes history? Is it only written history, or like how else do we broach that? But great point. I hear you. I think it's definitely something we should open up a little bit more and discuss. But let's go now. Daniel, you're the godfather. I always like what you have to say to close things up and wrap things up. So I hope I'm not missing anybody, but I think let's go Daniel, and then we'll get Papa and Dembe to close everything up for us. I think Lavi spoke, Cristiano. If I'm missing you, please send me a message and don't hate me. I'll get you to talk.
Merci pour la parole. C'est un sujet très important et on a entendu divers avis de tous les jeunes qui sont ici et tout ce qu'ils ont connu. Entre autres, on a vu des gens qui ont été comme à la première ligne au front. Ils ont subi des paroles peut-être de racisme, mais ils n'ont pas voulu parler, comme l'un l'a dit ici. Alors, pour moi, c'est un point assez important. Tant que nous y sommes, peut-être nous sommes comme grands frères, petits frères. Il faut toujours parler dans des cas comme ça parce qu'il y a des cas de suicides. Il y a des cas des gens qui perdent l'estime de soi à cause de ces choses. Alors, de plus en plus, il faut en parler aux parents, en parler aux gens qui nous entourent et essayer d'élever la voix pour que la situation soit connue de tous. Parce qu'il y a certaines personnes jusqu'à ce jour qui continuent de croire que les gens de couleur jouent à ce qu'on appelle la victimisation. Donc, ils cherchent à pleurnicher, alors que la chose, elle est réelle, la chose, elle est dans notre société, ça se vit chaque jour. Il y a des gens qui subissent la chose plus que les autres. Par exemple, moi, je ne pourrais pas comparer mon expérience à ceux qui ont vécu ici 30 ans, 28 ans, 20 ans, parce que j'étais entouré que des gens de ma couleur. Du coup, je ne peux pas parler de cette chose-là par expérience, mais ceux qui sont ici, donc il est arrivé, j'ai rencontré des gens de la même couleur de peau que moi, ils étaient en train de dire, je ne pense pas que le racisme existe parce qu'ils n'ont pas vécu la chose, ils n'étaient pas dans cette société. Mais à voir quand tu te déplaces, l'œil avec lequel tu es regardé, comment est-ce que les gens regardent les autres, tu comprends que la société, il y a beaucoup de différences, que ce soit la différence des cultures ou bien la différence dans la race. Alors pour moi, c'est comme un appel à tous ces jeunes qui sont en train de subir. Nous allons subir ces choses étant peut-être la minorité. Ceux qui viendront après subiront ces choses. C'est même pour ça que nous sommes ici, pour essayer de nous encourager à lever la voix, à parler de ces choses, à discuter de ces choses pour que l'on soit entendu. Non seulement que l'on soit entendu, mais aussi que les choses changent autour de nous. Alors nous pouvons être des vecteurs, nous pouvons être des agents de changement par rapport à ce que nous sommes en train de faire. Alors pour moi, c'est une joie, mais aussi un appel à toutes ces personnes qui ont subi ces choses. Parler de ces choses, c'est même pour ça que SOS prend toute sa forme. Ça veut dire partageons l'histoire, tout ce qu'on a connu, l'expérience des choses qu'on a connues, ce qu'on a entendu. Il y a ceux qui ont entendu par théorie, il y a ceux qui ont subi ces choses. Parlons de ces choses et essayons de vulgariser la chose au plus grand nombre. Et je pense que par cela, le changement peut-être ne sera pas avec nous, mais au fur et à mesure qu'on parle de ces choses, on va rendre conscient un plus grand nombre de personnes par rapport au racisme et on pourra changer des choses comme ça.
That's good. So what Daniel was pretty much saying is that for him, it was eye-opening to hear kind of the testimonials of the people out there who spoke. It's good for him to hear these kind of things. He grew up in Congo with a different experience where it was only people of his race around him. So when we hear about these cases of racism, he's saying it's really important people speak up, not only to speak up to like to not lose your own self-esteem, but there's people out there who don't believe that these things even exist. You experience this stuff, but like if we don't really speak about it, if we don't share our story, if we don't hold on to like the I don't know, like the title of SOS Congo, like the name of SOS Congo, a big part of that is about sharing your experiences so that maybe not today, but as we move along, like that real deep change can take root. It doesn't have to be immediate, but something that happens moving forward. So yeah, really, really, really great points. And yeah, we can land with now Papa Ndembe.
Well, let me just say thank you. I think it's a good forum that we are in, and then we can talk about things which really affects us. And I'm glad for those young people for really having people who are mentoring. Somehow we are building up each other by talking about things which really hurts us, and together, and we can really have a good perspective. So I thank you for that first. And well, let me just say, I like sometimes to joke when people ask me, where are you from? And then I will say, well, I'm from the womb of my mom. And I see the reaction of people because I don't know what they mean, but I give you answer because and they say, oh no, I know, and then you see the person starts rephrasing the question, but I understand. Eventually, I tell them I'm not ashamed to tell them what I'm from Congo, but I joke and I say. Why? Because if they play with our mind, we have to know how to play with their mind too. So they know, these people think, they are conscious, they know. So like I've just heard that we should not develop the spirit of a complex of inferiority or what. No, if there any change will be, I think that it has to start from us, from ourselves, because it's very difficult to change somebody else unless you change yourself. Then you give. The people will just consider they take you the way you value yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't value yourself, they won't value you. That's why I really commend this kind of forum. So we should not develop any complex or what. So thank you for bringing that subject of change. Change will always come, but it's slow. Change for change sake is novelty. It's not that that's what you want to do. We want to see a change which will last, which will really have a grassroots, a root, roots, so that we can be accepted. And just so in our context, I just want to say that we are here, we are part of history here, and we are bringing an history of our own, and that is the beauty. Because if we don't have a history, then we don't exist. And if we come here and we don't also take part of history, then we are not real with ourselves. So we bring history in history, and then you see how we can work together as a human being. Like I think someone said that we are valuable, not because for anything, but we are valuable because we are human beings. So I just commend, thank you for those wise words of said, especially hearing that there's a lot of going on among the youth. That some people are just finishing their life. They think that that's the solution. No, that's not the solution. Having this kind of meeting is a counseling itself. We are really encouraging, building one another. So, man, I think there are more to come. So I really commend it. So I'm happy. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. We're really coming towards the end of like the training per se. You guys came on and went through this UIP thing. It's been good, man. This has been really, really solid. Even if today was a little bit of us talking more at you guys and less interaction. Overall, it's good. We're gonna be back here Monday. We're gonna broach a little bit on change leadership, still looking at a real life example. And then after that, we're gonna talk about social entrepreneurship, how we ourselves can go ahead and stand up and make those kind of changes there. But it's about understanding the environment, understanding how change happens, understanding these things. So we're slowly walking to it. So thank you guys. Today we were missing 5 youth. It's okay. It's a Friday, and I know you guys met yesterday. So we were still understanding of those 5, but still not a bad turnout. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys giving us an extra half hour today. And yeah, we'll see you guys on Monday. Monday we're gonna try 6 p.m. Remember, no more 4 p.m. none of that stuff. Monday 6 to 8. Okay. We're gonna stay consistent with the time throughout. And I saw Raisa, you had your hand raised?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. All right, cool. All right, thank you guys, and then we'll see you guys.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
You as well.